ubwo hatangizwaga inama nyafurika yiga ku miyoborere mu bijyanye n'amazi, isuku n'isukura irimo kubera mu Rwanda kuva kuri wa kabiri tariki 18 Kanama 2026 muri Kigali Convention Center. Minisitiri muri Minisiteri y'Ibikorwa Remezo mu Rwanda cyakadamiye yavuze ko amazi meza n'isuku atari gahunda zirebana n'urwego rumwe gusa, ahubwo ko ari ishingiro ry'ubuzima rusange.
Water and sanitation are not mere sectorial priorities.
Amazi, isuku n'isukura si ibintu bireba urwego rumwe gusa, ahubwo ni inkingi y'ingenzi y'ubuzima rusange, iterambere ry'ubukungu, ubushobozi bwo guhangana n'imihindagurikire y'ibihe, guteza imbere imijyi no guha umuntu agaciro akwiye. Ikibazo si ukubaka ibikorwa remezo byinshi gusa, tugomba kubaka ibikorwa remezo by'amazi, isuku n'isukura byizewe, bihendutse, bitekanye kandi birambye ku buryo bishobora gukomeza kugera ku baturage ndetse bigateza imbere n'ubukungu bwacu.
Sustainable water and sanitation system that can serve our growing population and economies over the long term.
Naho Eugene Dusingize Mungu, umuyobozi w'umuryango Water for People Rwanda, avuga ko mu Rwanda ibikorwa remezo bihari ariko imbogamizi ariko bitageza serivisi zikenewe ku baturage. Akaba ariho yahereye agaragaza ko inama ari urubuga ruzigirwamo byinshi bizafasha mu kwihutisha serivisi z'isuku n'isukura n'amazi zigenerwa abaturarwanda.
U Rwanda ntekereza ko iyi nama ari urubuga ruzashobora kwigiramo ibintu byinshi kugira ngo byihutishe ko abanyarwanda bose bashobora kugerwaho na serivisi z'amazi ndetse n'isuku n'isukura muri rusange. Icy'ingenzi gishobora kuzava muri iyi nama ni uko abantu bazashobora guhura n'abashoramari bashobora gushyira imari zabo mu mazi, ndetse u Rwanda rushobora guhura n'abashoramari bashobora gutuma iterambere ryo mu mazi ndetse n'isuku byihutishwa ku buryo bashobora kugera kuri ntego za NST2 cyangwa se uburyo bw'u Rwanda rufite bwo kugira ngo rushobore kugera kuri viziyo ya 2050. Iyo urebye muri rusange imbogamizi zihari, akenshi ibikorwa remezo usanga bihari ariko ugasanga bidatanga amazi. Iyi nama ikintu izareho cyane cyane ni uburyo ibigo bishinzwe gukwirakwiza amazi byagira ubushobozi buhamye, inzego zikaba zubatse ku mpande zose ku buryo zishobora gukorana zigakemura ikibazo rusanzwe. Iyi nzego buriya zimaze gukorana neza zikaba zubatse cyane cyane ibigo bishinzwe gutanga amazi, bishinzwe gushyiraho amategeko bakabishyiraho neza, na ya mafaranga dushatse yaje ashyira muri ibyo bikorwa kandi bigakora, hamana bya bigo bikagira abakozi bafite ubushobozi buhamye kugira ngo bashobore gutanga amazi meza.
Minisitiri w'Intebe Dr. Nsengiyumva wari umushyitsi mukuru muri iyi nama izamara iminsi 2 ibera mu Rwanda. Ubwo yifunguraga ku mugaragaro yagaragaje ko muri Afurika abantu miliyoni 418 badafite serivisi z'ibanze z'amazi, kandi nyamara hirya no hino kuri uyu mugabane ibikorwa remezo bihari.
Across Africa, 418 million people still lack basic water services.
Muri Afurika abantu miliyoni 418 ntabwo bagerwaho na serivisi z'ibanze z'amazi. Abandi bantu miliyoni 779 ntibagira serivisi z'ibanze z'isuku. Naho abantu miliyoni 839 nta buryo bw'ibanze bw'isuku bagira. Hirya no hino ku mugabane wacu hamaze gushorwa imari nyinshi, hashyizweho imiyoboro y'amazi, hacukurwa amariba, kandi hanatangizwa ibigo bitunganya amazi bitandukanye. Nyamara uyu munsi byinshi muri ibyo bikorwa remezo ntibitanga neza serivisi byari byaragenewe gutanga. Kubaka ibikorwa remezo ni ingenzi, ariko ahanini ibyo biba ari intangiriro gusa. Igipimo nyakuri cy'intsinzi ni ukureba niba ibyo bikorwa remezo bikora neza kandi bikazageza serivisi ku baturage mu buryo burambye.
And reaches communities over the long term is the real measure of success.
Guverinoma y'u Rwanda yagaragaje ko mu rugendo rwo gukemura ikibazo cy'amazi meza adahagije agera ku baturage hari gushyirwa mu bikorwa imishinga itandukanye izatanga amazi ku buryo mu mwaka wa 2029 hazaba hatunganywa metero kibi 648 z'amazi meza agera ku baturage mu gihugu hose. Ni mu gihe ubushakashatsi bwa karindwi ku mibereho y'ingo muri rusange EICV7 bwagaragaje ko imibare y'abanyarwanda bagerwaho n'amazi meza yageze kuri 90% bavuye kuri 87% mu mwaka wa 2017. Alan Inkotanyi Gashiramanga.
Excellencies, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, distinguished guests, on behalf of the government of Rwanda, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to Kigali for the Africa Water and Sanitation Systems Leadership Symposium. Welcome to Kigali. I think a lot of good things have been said and have been discussed. And please allow me not to repeat them. Allow me to discuss this very important issue from probably a different angle. So, but before I do that, I once again to hope that alongside the important work ahead of us this week, I hope that we have an opportunity to experience the warmth of Rwanda and the hospitality of our people. 4 years from now, we arrive at 2030. And by every honest measure, we remain far from achieving our sustainable development goal for water and sanitation. Across Africa, 418 million people still lack basic water services. 779 million lack basic sanitation, and 839 million lack basic hygiene. Those numbers should concern us deeply, not because Africa has lacked effort or investment, but because, despite the progress we have made, the scale of the challenge remains immense. Across our continent, significant investment have been made. Pipes have been laid, boreholes have been drilled, and the treatment plants have been constructed and commissioned. Yet, today, a great many of these infrastructures are not effectively delivering the services for which they were designed. The lesson is clear. Building infrastructure is important, but to a large extent, it is only the beginning. Ensuring that the built infrastructure functions effectively and reaches communities over the long term is the real measure of success. This brings us to the central question before us this week. How do we translate investment into reliable and lasting services? The answer lies in stronger institutions, effective governance, sustainable financing, and accountable leadership. Leadership underpinned by the political commitment to ensure that every system we build continues to serve our people. And this is the leadership challenge before us, and it is precisely why this symposium matters. It is in this context that in February of this year, the African Union's General Assembly endorsed the Africa Water Vision and Policy 2063, which laid out in no uncertain words that governance and leadership are not accompaniments to a water-secure Africa, but rather the precondition for one. I'd go even further and say that they're also the answer to the question everyone in this sector eventually asks, the question of which and where does the money come from? The African Union's own panel on water investment found that better governance alone, that is, sound tariffs, honest collection, and disciplined financial management can unlock around $11.5 billion a year on this continent. Domestic resources mobilization, done properly, can unlock another $17.5 billion. Set against that, and while foreign partnership is important, but we see that foreign assistance is a modest line in the accounts. This goes to show that Africa's water future can and should be paid for by Africans. But we need to remember, capital, wherever it comes from, it goes where it is safe. It goes towards institutions that keep honest books and do what they say they will do. So therefore, as we go through this week, I think we should not be misguided into repeating the same old conversations around where money will come from. Rather, we should think about how we build the kind of institutions that money wants to find. This, admittedly, is a harder conversation than building infrastructure because it involves uncomfortable questions around who gets accountable when systems fail and whether the people running those systems have both the skill and the incentive to keep them running. But ultimately, as leaders and stewards of our communities, this hard work is our responsibility to the citizens that we serve. Rwanda comes to this forum with the same humility and openness that we ask of all of us gathered here. Our own reforms are still underway and still incomplete. Our non-revenue water is higher than we would like it to be. By the way, I must confess that I find the term non-revenue water rather too gentle for the problem it describes. In my view, there's nothing non-revenue about water that has been treated and pumped but never reaches the people it is meant to serve. That's a real loss of resources, and more importantly, a loss of service to our citizens. Again, talking about our systems, our rural services model, including the involvement of private operators, are still finding their feet. And we know that these are precisely the challenges that require honest leadership and practical solutions. We share these realities deliberately because we believe that this is a forum for honest exchange. What Rwanda can contribute is our experience around what has worked, what has not, and what we are still trying to figure out. And we come ready to learn from the experience of others in this room. At the end of the week, we will walk away with a set of commitments embodied in the Kigali Communiqué on systems transformation for the realization of the Africa Water Vision and Policy 2063. I encourage all of you, ministers, regulators, utility leaders, mayors, financiers, civil society organizations, and young professionals to make this document and to yours truly. Make the commitments clear enough and specific enough that someone can hold us to them when we meet again. But I also encourage us to imagine success beyond the document itself. The real test of this week will not be what we sign here in Kigali, but what changes when we return home in the institutions that we lead, in the decisions that we make, and ultimately in the quality, the reliability, and sustainability of the water and sanitation services that our people receive. Importantly, as also emphasized by our colleague minister from Senegal, let this conversation not end on Friday. Let us carry it to Abu Dhabi in December. Let us arrive not only with needs to present, but with solutions to offer, commitments to make, and a clear vision of the future that we want to build. So once again, I welcome you all in Kigali. I wish you very fruitful discussions, and on behalf of the President of the Republic of Rwanda, I'm happy to declare this symposium open. I thank you.